guess they want us to stay.
A deadly game show, stolen King Kong footage, and a villain who died before the movie even premiered. The Running Man, 1987, became a cult classic for its over-the-top action, dystopian thrills, and Arnold Schwarzenegger in peak 80s form. But the making of the film was wilder and stranger than most fans realize. Today, we'll reveal 10 facts you never knew about The Running Man and why this movie is still a must-watch 80s action masterpiece. Fact number 1. Dynamo died before the movie was released. The over-the-top villain, Dynamo, who looms large on stage with his electrified costume and booming operatic voice, was played by Erland van Lith de Jode, a real-life amateur wrestler and classically trained opera singer. When Dynamo strides in and belts out an aria from Mozart's Marriage of Figaro, you're not just hearing any actor lip-syncing. That's actually Van Lith's own powerful voice. But behind that glamorous, villainous facade, there was a heartbreaking twist. Van Lith died of heart failure on September 23, 1987, just a couple of months before The Running Man hit theaters. Imagine playing your most iconic role, giving one of the most memorable performances in a campy cult action flick, only to pass away before the world even sees it. For Van Lith, Dynamo was his final act. It casts a somber shadow over his electrifying presence in the movie. The guy wasn't just doing stunts, but he was living a complicated, multi-talented life, with wrestling, singing, opera, and acting. He was gone too soon. Van Lith's passing also cast a dark light on the movie when it hit the cinema. This wasn't the only shocking surprise behind the film. Some of what you thought were epic action scenes weren't even made for The Running Man. Fact number 2. The helicopter attack was stolen from King Kong. One of the weirdest behind-the-scenes tricks in The Running Man is something you won't expect. Remember those explosive helicopter attack scenes? They weren't filmed specifically for the movie, but were literally stolen straight from the 1976 King Kong remake. It's not just a few background helicopters, but the aerial assault footage, complete with fire and explosions, is actual stock footage from the King Kong movie. Because of that, the scenes around that particular footage are kind of weird. At one point in The Running Man, you can see flashes, but you won't hear any gunshots. It's a clue that the audio and visuals weren't originally shot together. This reveal turns the film's spectacle on its head. It's supposed to be a big-budget, high-stakes aerial battle, but it's actually recycled footage from another movie. If you play this scene and the King Kong film side by side, you won't see any difference. This just reminds you of how cleverly and cheaply the effects were handled in the 80s movies. But it's still unsure why they decided to get footage from The Running Man. Was it budget pressure? Because one of the first directors went way beyond the budget, laziness, or a clever way to put the movie together without reshooting or paying for real helicopters? Well, that's a bold move. And speaking of bold moves, 2 actors from this chaotic sci-fi world went on to become something no one expected. Fact number 3. 2 actors became real-life governors. This secret is absolutely bonkers when you think about it. 2 of the actors who were stomping around in The Running Man's dystopian death game later went into politics and actually became real-life governors. First up, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who played the tough-as-nails Ben Richards, didn't just fade into Hollywood after the film. In 2003, he ran for governor of California and won. Even crazier, for his campaign bus tour, he named his bus The Running Man. And then there's Jesse the Body Ventura, who appears in the movie as Captain Freedom. A few days later, he shocked everyone by running for governor of Minnesota and actually won. He served as Minnesota's 38th governor from 1999 to 2003. But surprisingly, the most unbelievable part of The Running Man started long before casting. It began with a brutal real-life game show. If you enjoy hidden stories behind classic movies, hit the like and subscribe button. Now, let's move. Fact number 4, the game show was inspired by a brutal Japanese show. The film's whole deadly game show concept wasn't just pulled from science fiction, but it was inspired by a real and brutal Japanese TV show. Producer Rob Cohen specifically mentioned Transamerica Ultra Quiz as a source of inspiration. Transamerica Ultra Quiz was a Japanese show where contestants were sent to exotic places around the world and forced to complete grueling, often humiliating challenges if they failed to answer quiz questions correctly. People who failed the quiz would be made to endure tasks so harsh that they provoked real tears. Imagine being on a TV show where failure meant more than just going home. It meant public embarrassment, physical hardship, and emotional stress. That same twisted spirit found its way into The Running Man, where runners aren't just competing for money, but they're literally running for their lives. That influence gives the film a darker edge than just cheesy 80s action. It's not just futuristic entertainment, but a commentary on how the media can exploit human suffering. It was borrowed from a real-life show that weaponized humiliation. The Running Man highlights a terrifying possibility that TV could become so voyeuristic and ruthless that it rewards cruelty and not just talent. So, behind Arnold's one-liners and the neon-streaked arena, the movie was inspired by something real and disturbing. This wasn't the only secret behind the movie. If you watch closely, you'll notice differences between the film and the book. Fact number 5. The book's hero was nothing like Arnold. In Stephen King's original novel, written as Richard Bachman, Ben Richards is nothing like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Instead of a buff, muscle-bound action hero, he's scrawny, desperate, and trapped by poverty and grief. Richards needs money to treat his seriously ill daughter, and his wife has turned to prostitution just to make ends meet. In the book's cruel dystopia, the government runs savage game shows where contestants literally risk their lives. One of the first games King describes is Treadmill to Bucks, where elderly or sick contestants, people with serious heart, lung, or liver problems, run on a treadmill for as long as they can. When they go too deep into trouble, the speed's cranked up, and sometimes they just collapse. Richards doesn't just join a studio-bound gladiator match like in the movie. He enters a game where he's chased across the entire world by hunters, and his every move is broadcast to a watching public. King himself admitted that Richards in the book was as far away from the Arnold Schwarzenegger character as you can get. It's a darker, grittier, and far more emotionally driven story than the 80s action spectacle we saw on screen. But it wasn't as easy to make The Running Man as you might think, as it went through multiple directors, and the last one wasn't what you'd expect. Fact number 6. Multiple director turmoils. The Running Man's long, chaotic journey to the screen went through the director that many fans, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, felt was totally wrong for the job. Early on, the production was chaotic, and they couldn't keep a single director. Big names like George P. Cosmatos, fresh off Rambo, and Andrew Davis were on the set. But one by one, they either walked away from the movie or were let go. Then came Paul Michael Glaser, who played Starsky from Starsky and Hutch. A TV vet with zero big picture experience, Glaser was thrust into a blockbuster action film with a tight schedule and little preparation time. He stepped in after Davis was fired for going over the budget and falling behind just after a week of shooting. But as you can expect, Schwarzenegger was frustrated by this choice, and he didn't hide it. He felt like Glaser treated The Running Man like a made-for-TV flick. So, instead of a gritty dystopian allegory like what we got in the book, what landed on screen leaned more toward flashy spectacle, complete with dance numbers and melodrama. But Glaser had no choice but to work with what he had. He said that he didn't have the luxury to rebuild everything. He showed up with basically 2 days to prep and just went to work, putting out what the producers wanted. Glaser solved the problems as best as he could. But for Arnold, the tension between him and the director was high, and insiders say that that's one reason why his performance wasn't good towards the end of the shooting. But this isn't the only secret you might not have noticed in The Running Man. The movie also hid some references to apartheid South Africa. Fact number 7. Hidden apartheid reference at the airport. In The Running Man, when Ben Richards and Amber arrive at the airport, the announcer casually lists flights to Pretoria and Manderley. On the surface, it's just another futuristic place name, but dig deeper, and it's one of the film's sharpest political Easter eggs. At the time the movie came out, Pretoria was the administrative capital of South Africa, and Nelson Mandela was still in prison, a symbol of the brutal apartheid regime. By twisting those names into Pretoria and Manderley, the filmmakers are slyly nodding to operation, racial injustice, and the fight for freedom, all without ever having to spell it out. It's a bold move, especially for a Hollywood action movie. Rather than ignore global politics, The Running weaves them into its dystopian world. That little announcement at the airport was a bit of commentary. It hints that the society depicted in the movie is not immune to real-world power dynamics and systemic oppression. The moment can be easily ignored if you miss the reference, but once you catch it, you'll realize how many layers were packed into what seems like throwaway dialogue. It also shows how many secrets you might have missed when watching the movie. And speaking of secret details, one stalker's name is a joke all on its own. Fact number 8. Professor Sub-Zero wasn't a professor at all. Professor Sub-Zero, the creepy, hockey gear-wearing stalker, isn't a real professor at all. He's played by Toru Tanaka, whose wrestling persona was Professor Toru Tanaka, but the professor title was just part of his gimmick in the ring. In real life, Charles J. Kalani Jr., who is Tanaka, was a heavyweight pro wrestler, not an academic scholar. Wrestling gave him the stage name Professor, but it was all for show. He never lectured, didn't run a university, and had no PhD. On screen, Sub-Zero's Professor moniker creates this bizarre contrast. It was a hulking villain dressed in red armor, wielding a razor-edged hockey stick, but calling himself Professor. It's theatrical, over the top, and totally in line with his pro wrestling roots. That theatricality wasn't just an act for the movie either. Tanaka was a well-known wrestler with a long career, and his professor persona was part of his wrestling gimmick. He would even throw salt in his opponent's eyes, which was a classic heel move. So yeah, when the announcer or characters in The Running Man refer to him as Professor Sub-Zero, they're playing into the same exaggerated showman-style character that Tanaka had perfected in the wrestling ring. It's a brilliant little piece of casting and reminds us of just how theatrical the whole film is. And that playful tone shows up again inside Killian's office. Fact number 9. Killian's office poster was a hidden TV joke. In Damon Killian's office, played by Richard Dawson, there's a poster for a fictional TV show called The Hate Boat. At first glance, you might think it's just another in-world game show, but it's actually a dark, cheeky nod to The Love Boat, the very real, cheesy romantic TV cruise ship series where Dawson himself once appeared. That little prop isn't just decoration, but a wink to TV culture and Dawson's own legacy. On one level, it highlights the hypocrisy and manufactured glitz of Killian's dystopian media empire. On the other hand, it tips a hat to Dawson's real-life game show charisma, blending his friendly, nice uncle on TV persona with a ruthless, manipulative dystopian host. In the twisted world of The Running Man, The Hate Boat acts as a brutal parody. The concept flips the warm, romantic vibes of The Love Boat into something darker and far more cynical. It's a perfect example of how the film layers its satire, using something familiar and beloved to prove how entertainment can be weaponized. The more you pay attention to the backgrounds and set dressing, the more The Running Man reveals itself to be something even stranger. Fact number 10. Bizarre credits. The final secret about The Running Man is about the credits of the movie, which is a brilliant piece of tongue-in-cheek satire. When you're watching Killian in his control room, there's a TV screen next to him that scrolls through the fictional show's credits, and they're absolutely ridiculous. Rather than real names, you see things like "What next? I don't know," titles, "Type M wrong," and "Makeup. Paint your face." The credits aren't goofs, but they are a meta-commentary on the absurdity and manufactured nature of the show within the film. The crew feels like a made-up team working for a dystopian broadcast machine. One of the music credits even reads "Do Re Mi." It's almost like the filmmakers were telling the viewers that The Running Man might be a deadly show, but you shouldn't take anything too seriously, as even the credits are part of the joke. Whether it's the villain that died before the movie could be released, the directors that kept on leaving, or the scene that was stolen from another movie, the Running Man movie had some craziness behind the scenes. Which of these secrets didn't you expect? Let's know your thoughts in the comments. If you stayed till the end, then you might be interested in what's actually happening behind the scenes of some iconic movies. To learn more information about how movies are made and the drama during production, subscribe to our channel. Leave a like if The Running Man is one of your longtime favorites.